any system in place to prevent at present. We're essentially relying, for what it's worth, on the good nature of humanity for safety there. But, as I say, cryonics facilities have been around since the early 70s, and to date there's not been a problem.
There's going to be a problem. The problem would happen when people start noticing.
Yeah, exactly. We've been
this is true.
Those people. No one takes us seriously. That protects us.
Actually, because I'm incredibly narcissistic, I recently Googled David Stiles cryonics, and the top thing that came up was somebody talking about me on davidicke.com. For those of you who are not familiar with David Icke, he has 12-foot shape-shifting reptilian blood-drinking lizards who are secretly in all the key positions of power and ruling great conspiracy theories. So, to date, that's not really an issue because nobody takes that kind of thing seriously. But there are people who do take other issues related to that seriously, and you're absolutely right that the problems do occur when people start noticing. Yes?
I think it's really important to point out that it started already. The Alcor facility has been hit twice, once with gunfire into the facility.
Yeah, I was not aware of that completely.
They've had sabotage at the ambulance. In fact, they had to expand the area that they occupy in the building that they own into an adjacent bay to put the mobile operating room inside. This came about after Ted Williams, the American baseball star, was cryopreserved. There was a lot of local bad reaction of people hanging around the facility, watching constantly, and there was vandalism. 22 fired into the
That is news to me. I knew there was a hue and cry, but I didn't know it had gone to that extent.
So therefore you have a real problem here, which is political risk.
They had to completely reconfigure where they stored patients. They had them originally where the roll-up doors, I think you're all familiar with how industrial buildings where the roll-up doors were, patients were here and the doers and the roll-up doors were here. They had to completely reconfigure the building to move them in so that there would be a cement wall between them and the outside so that you couldn't fire weapons in through the metal into the building and the doors. It's still very soft protection compared to what's needed.
The new locations?
Not really. This was, well, it would have been, I was the team leader for Williams, so that would have been 2002, it would have been 2003, late 2002, early 2003, and the problems continued as late as 2004. I don't know what it's been like the last few years.
So, and again, you're looking for a facility which will stay online in a reasonable, politically and legally stable environment for over a period of decades, which will remain amenable to technological change, and which will not allow antithetical, philosophical, political or religious movements the power to take over the state and effectively undermine or destroy your facility. Now, one of the candidates who you would have put forward for such a country would be the United States, given that it's more politically stable, and yet the United States is rather problematic. It's Russia.
I actually had this discussion recently with a Hungarian transhumanist who was weighing up the options of the various different cryonics providers available. Now, obviously, Hungary is located geographically nearer to Russia, that will provide its own conveniences. There's a lot of political bad blood, obviously, on that side of the continent, such that he does not trust the Russian political situation. He says he does not trust cryonics in a country that is does not seem to him to be committed to democracy. To be honest, this is an issue that faces America and Russia both, I think, but in very different ways. Because although America is very proud of being a democracy, technically it's not, there's been no democracy since the city-state of Athens, but it's very proud of being a democracy, and that idea of power to the people. Essentially, I asked him the question, do you want to place your life in the hands of a popular majority, bearing in mind that the majority of people are against the idea of living forever, or in the hands of a small elite and whatever their political motivations, they're in favour of it. Incidentally, CryoRus, I understand, receives good support from the Russian government, doesn't it? Which is a consideration compared to Alcor and CI, who are simply independent, incorporated entities. I say incorporated, they're not businesses, they're non-profit organisations, both of them.
Can I just point out the lifetime of a Russian elite is about 2 decades at the moment.
This is true.
Both within communism and in
And that is one of the reasons that I personally would not sign up with CryoRus. I would not sign up for that reason, and also for the reason that CI and Alcor have a vast wealth of experience, which CryoRus simply don't have yet.
By the way, the United States is not a democracy, it's a republic first and foremost.
That's why I say they're very proud of being a democracy. They're not a democracy. Sorry, I thought I had...
no, they were literally fair, neither was the republic.
Yeah.
Well,
America has at least the comfort that they have relative stability compared to a lot of other countries, and they do have at least theoretically separation of church and state, which will prevent major religious objections to cryonics. Also relevant is the issues of finance. You know, are the organisations in question financially sustainable? Because if they fold, as let's face it, so many organisations are folding currently in the current economic climate, then that doesn't bode well for the people they're looking after. For me, this is why I personally am signed up with CI rather than Alcor, because I have more faith in their long-term investment situation. That is to say that they own their own facilities, they keep their outgoings to a direct minimum, and whereas Alcor is investing a lot of decidedly more money into research than CI is, that means that their investments are more geared around producing a return on investment that will fund that. So those investments will be high return but also riskier, whereas CI is simply looking for long-term sustainability, which is what I personally would look for in a cryonics organisation.
Should we just pause if there's a couple of questions? Anders?
Sure.
Well, I think the democracy issue is actually a red herring. What you want to look for is what's technically called liberal democracy, how much protection of various rights is going on. And whether that is done by elections or some other system, that's not very interesting. The nice thing here is, of course, that we actually do have data about different countries and the rights records over time, and there is even a bit of studies being done about, well, what makes a more stable country. Just like Alcor moved from California, both because of a better legal climate and something, but also because it's not on a major fault line. You can probably actually start applying a lot of these things about the liberal democratic record of different places in order to look at, well, what's the likelihood of having it set. But right now, we can't really do much shopping around, because I think the optimal place is probably some mine in northern Sweden, but that's pretty unlikely to actually happen in practice. So we have to decide, I mean, the US or Russia. That seems to be the choices we have. Right?
It is, essentially.
I'm one of the harshest critics of cryonics in general and Alcor in particular, but I would point out that Alcor owns all of its own facilities and all of its own equipment. The Patient Care Trust owns the building that Alcor occupies. Alcor leases out, I think, now roughly a third of that building, but they own it. And I don't know where you got your information about how they invest or what they invest in, but their investments are... Where is your source of
primarily
information?
from talking with Alan Sinclair, one of their...
I think you should go to actually the Alcor website or look at the how they invest. I'm not pleased with how any cryonics organization invests their money, but as far as investments goes, Alcor is probably about as conservative as you can be. Most of it is in the real estate of the building that they own, and the rest is in T-bills, other kinds of fairly conservative financial instruments. Their history of investment has not been one of
Would you not agree that
radical
CI has a degree more security within its investment strategy simply because it's mutually owned?
No. In fact, I think that